So, like the title suggests, I've been playing No Man's Sky again, and I've actually been enjoying it quite a bit. So to start up, I'll go over a little bit of my background with the game, and to give you a little bit of context. So first, I started playing the game basically when it released, and I played it for a little bit, not too much, and I did like it, but I didn't get very far. So at the time, the game was fun, but it was mostly a walking simulator, which is a bit what I expected from the game, but well, it's not something that I would spend too much time playing. And another issue that the game had at the time was that it was a bit too grindy. After that, I didn't play it for a while, and I basically waited until more updates and improvements came out. And once they basically fully added multiplayer, like it was promised, I jumped back in again and liked it. The improvements were nice. It was nice that now you could play in third person, and then you could actually find other players. But other than that, I didn't play it a lot longer either, because again, I would get tired of the grindiness that the game had. At the time, I felt like most of your time was spent gathering resources in order to support yourself, meaning that whenever you're gathering resources, whenever you are in the planet's surface, you're losing energy to your systems, to your weapon systems when you use them, or to your like suit systems to just keep you alive. And whenever you're traveling by ship, you have like your fuel. Whenever you take off, you use a lot of like takeoff fuel. And then whenever you travel from system to system, and another fuel which is even rarer. So I ended up, I felt like I kept being in this loop of just trying to get the resources to maintain myself, just so I could go like one planet further, right? And that really bothered me a bit, and made me basically stop. And that was, I think, the main reason, but both of the times I didn't last too long with the game. And well, since then, I've basically been passively paying attention to the game and, you know, taking a look at the updates that came out with it. And then recently, I've started being more and more interested in playing it again, basically since the Outpost update, which caught me kind of off guard. I thought it felt almost completely out of place. So for those who don't know, the Outpost update, which I'm not sure if it's called that way, but it basically added an outpost that you could take control, you could become the overseer of, and then you would have some type of, you would basically have to manage this outpost and protect it from sentinel attacks, which I found quite funny, because it almost felt, like I said before, out of place. It almost felt like this is not No Man's Sky, like they're almost going too far in terms of the amount of content that they're adding to the game. So that really piqued my attention. And well, I didn't jump into the game straight away, but I once they released the update after Sentinel, which they basically added improvements to the combat and a few more Sentinel types, which basically improved the combat overall by making each Sentinel type act slightly differently, etc. Which I guess is quite interesting. But you know, that update was not necessarily like amazing in itself, but just the fact that like the accumulation of all these updates made me, okay, now it felt like a good time to jump in again. So now I've played a decent amount. I've reached like further than I've ever did in terms of like everything, the amount of stuff that I've done, and the amount of upgrades, and basically the level of my ship, etc. So to quickly go over what I've done, I've basically finished the Atlas missions. I haven't finished the other main missions, but I'm on it. I basically have 3 bases that I'm decently happy with, only with basically missing decorations, which I have not been spending the resources to unlock them. I'm basically focused on using those resources to unlock utility stuff instead. But I am at the point where I've basically unlocked all of the utility stuff, so I would start spending those resources on decoration, which I'm happy to do. And other than that, I have a freighter that I'm happy with, and I have ships that I'm happy with. Basically, I just got a fighter which I'm happy with, which I mostly got for the looks, but I'm looking forward to improving it and getting all the upgrades interested, so I can start doing a bounty hunt basically. And when the last thing that I have been doing is I started finally getting into the actual outpost thing, which I was quite interested in. And I basically did some improvements to the outpost, but it's still not productive yet. But it's getting there. But I mostly have to wait basically between the different things that I do to it, which is a mechanic that I will talk in a bit about, because a lot of the different systems, a lot of the different things that they added to the game later on are actually have this kind of idea where you have to wait a certain amount of time, or a lot of time as well. It like can range from like an hour to 24 hours or even more, I believe. So how has my experience changed from the previous playthroughs, I guess? Well, it feels like they've changed a little bit how the resources work overall, and it feels a lot less grindy. I don't know if it is my perspective of it, or if it actually is less grindy, but it feels a lot easier to get the resources that you would need for like the fuels and the different fuel types that were, I think, an issue for me at the beginning. And also I feel like the game is a lot more generous whenever you open boxes, and they will give you quite often those like fuel resources, so that you don't actually have to craft them or use lower power resources, which in the end I feel like fluidify the whole experience a lot more, and make the game feel less grindy and more and give more freedom to what you're actually doing, which is nice. And now I've also been paying attention to guilds a little bit more, which also add like an extra layer of progression, which I was not paying attention to. And I have been paying attention to it a little bit more. And basically the way I have been doing it is whenever I explore systems, I look into the guilds, like the guild missions, and whenever I see that I have like multiple missions that I can do together, basically if I have multiple missions that tell me to kill pirates, or to kill animals, or to collect certain resources, then I know that I can do them at the same time, and before I take them all and I do them, not necessarily focusing on one single guild, but just mostly just doing everything, which was an extra thing that I think makes my experience a little bit better. And another thing that I think is making me enjoy the game a lot more is I feel a change in my perspective of the game. So instead of, and I think mostly a mindset, which is that instead of being overwhelmed by the amount of things that I want to do in the game, you just try to focus on one thing at a time, and slowly then like open up to other stuff. So for example, I just now started with the outpost, and I didn't start with the freighters until like very late as well. So then that brings me to how a lot of these things are made, like the way that the freighters and the outposts, and also like to some extent the main quests of your initial base as well, is that a lot of these systems have missions that basically you have to do like a little thing, and then it gives you a long time to wait, which can also again range from, like I said before, from like an hour to like multiple hours. Specifically, expedition from the freighter can take up to like 20 hours, 24 hours, or maybe even more. Which, like I said, allow you to basically focus on your main objective a lot. And that is something that I think, instead of being overwhelmed by it, you can do it and then just, take it passively. And I think it's quite nice. And it's also something that basically pushes you to come back and play the game again, because you know that once you come back, all of these things you have done, and you have these kind of set things to do at the beginning of, I guess, of your play session, right? You join the game and you visit your freighter, your capital ship, so you can send expeditions, and you go to the outpost so you can start a new, like a building, or like resolve some issues, whatever, and you go to your base to get to your like next step in the mission and so on. And then you can just focus on whatever you were doing before, rather, either your main mission or simply exploring. And one of the things that I have been doing now is just basically explore and travel towards the center of the galaxy. And which, by the way, the game really makes it very easy to do, because every system, every space station has its own portal, and the game tells you which was the last system you've been to and so on, so it makes it quite easy to just whenever you need to go back to your outpost, just jump back to your outpost, and then you can teleport back to the last system you were in and just keep exploring from there. And then you can also like spawn the freighter, the capital ship, at pretty much any system you're in, and so on, which makes it so that you can manage those things quite easily without having to divert from your main activity too much. And another thing that I wanted to talk about is how they changed the procedural generation of the planets themselves, and also of the creatures. And for the planets, it feels like a good thing. It feels like there's a lot more types of planets now, which make the exploration a lot more fun. And it feels like the planets are less empty and less boring as they used to. There's still like a lot of planets which don't really have very interesting features, but they feel at least more interesting than they used to, which is a nice change. But of course, like, because it's like a full universe, you cannot expect all of the planets to be awesome. And then they made improvements to how the creatures are generated. And here I'm actually have mixed feelings with it, because back in the day, the creatures, I mean, a lot of people like laughed at it because a lot of the creatures were actually super weird and would look like they were four-legged creatures, but then they walk only on two legs, and they would have very weird behaviors and stuff like that. But one of the things I liked about it is that it was weird, and it was to some extent unpredictable. And now what they've done, it feels like they've added more types of creatures. Maybe not maybe they have added more types of creatures, but they seem to have restricted how those creatures are generated. Therefore, if they will, for example, I don't know exactly how it works background, but maybe what I'm thinking is maybe if it chooses a four-legged body type, then it would only go for a four-legged creature. And if so, the creatures now basically feel a lot more alike. So once you see a certain type of creature, if you go to a different planet and see the same type of creature, it would look quite similar. And unless you have like big changes in sizes or big changes in other parts that they might use, they tend to look quite similar. And I feel this is, I guess, a problem with procedural generation in general, and I guess I could do a full video just talking about it. But I feel like instead of trying to fix the system so that to reduce extremely weird creatures, they restricted the system, making it so that creatures now look too alike. And I'm a bit conflicted about this change. And mostly I would feel like the game would still benefit from the addition of even more types of creatures and more parts, I guess, for the creatures to use. But outside of that, I've actually been very much enjoying the game, and there's still a lot of things that I have not played. For example, the expeditions. I haven't really interacted with many online multiplayer stuff at all, and I haven't partaken into these expeditions that I've seen that exist, but basically take you through longer journeys, through like more, I wouldn't say more hand-picked journeys through the world, which seems quite interesting, but I have not played it yet. So the game, I've been enjoying it quite a lot, and I'm still not finished whatsoever with it. So I wanted to kind of finish this video by basically praising Hello Games with the amount of work that they've been putting into this game without asking for any money, which is impressive. Like I said, I've owned this game from the beginning, and I haven't paid a single euro more, and I'm getting all of these upgrades for free, which is crazy. And I think we can only applaud Hello Games for the amount of work that they're putting into this game, and the continuity of it, which is honestly amazing. I almost feel like at this point they should just stop. Like, it almost feels like a joke. Like, oh, come on, man, guys. Like, you should just, at this point, you just ask for money. Like, you're doing too much work for nothing. So I really want to like thank Hello Game for that. And I think we could only hope that more companies would do the same thing. So yeah, great game. Like, very much looking forward to what's coming next. And again, wouldn't mind having to pay a little bit for the next update. Maybe do it like Frontier does with Elite Dangerous, where they join multiple updates and multiple improvements into like one like paid pack kind of thing, like a pass that allows you to access all of the content being added to the game past a certain point. So anyways, thanks for watching, and see you next time. And I'll go back to playing No Man's Sky.